like in the days of Noah. So the debauchery and the decadence would grow wildly, and people would lose it. They'd lose their whole puritanical compass, where they had that ethical and moral tug and pull they listened to and said, look, we're getting off track here. I mean, you want to decide everything from gay marriages to what kind of drugs are okay and not okay, and whether a prostitution be legal or illegal, and abortions and all this stuff, and the human harvesting of organs. But you see, if you're going to be the expert, then you've got to understand that this thing, humanity is very fluid. We're very dynamic in that sense. And, let's take psychology, for example. According to those are the so-called experts in this field, where you need these great credentials to practice the business, then one day homosexuality, for example, is a mental illness, and then a couple decades later, all these experts now, and they write all their new textbooks, now agree that it is not. They've got a consensus. So, this is not a mental illness anymore. And actually, it's likely that soon, if you are homophobic, then that's going to be seen as being mentally ill, right? Isn't that, you see that coming, that kind of thinking, that it's not okay to say, well, I'm not a proponent of it. I don't condone it. I think men loving men is wonderful, and I think men showing affection to men is wonderful. But how many men out there, let me ask you, are afraid to show affection to another man because they're afraid, they are homophobic, and they're afraid to be perceived as being homosexual, even though, you see, if they didn't have to worry about that, and it wasn't so much out and open and in your face and celebrated like some kind of circus or something with these pride parades and all this stuff, then even if I was, let's say I'm a gay man living on Castro Street in San Francisco, I think I'd start to kind of want to get away from the whole gay movement, because I'd say, something, I might, like men, to the point of wanting to, engage them sexually, but I see it as, it's not ideal. I think that really, that common sense tells me I'm walking around with this bolt, and what I really need is a nut, and it all makes sense logically speaking in that sense. So I would say probably in my right mind I would say I'm straight, that there's a part of me that's straight at least, and I would say I don't like the whole circus, the theater, this whole hoopla about, wow, we've got this great triumph in America, and now it's okay to be gay, it's okay to marry, and all this is accepted, but not understanding, the bigger problems associated with it, the high depression levels of so many gay people, higher suicide rates for so many gay people. I mean, it's just another sin. To me, I'm no better than a gay person. And let me make one thing perfectly clear while I'm talking about this, is that if you're a gay person, I'm not going to love you any more or any less either way. That's not where I'm coming from. I'm just coming from a point where I'm trying to look at this thing squarely as a heterosexual man and say, just like me, I've been single for a long time. Does that mean I don't like people? I don't like women. I don't want to be together. I don't want to be married. No, it doesn't. I think a marriage, a right marriage, is the best gift a man could ever have. Okay? That's, to me, is just the greatest thing. I think the only time sex is okay, really, is in a marriage. Does that mean I haven't had sex outside of a good marriage? No, I'm not trying to say that. I'm a sinner too. And, that's it. To me, the whole gay thing, we're talking about sex, unless we're talking about the monetary aspect. I think that's where the marriage thing is that it's about the benefits of marriage, death benefits and all that, survivor benefits. And I think it's more of a monetary thing they want. And so, so they've got to have a new definition of marriage that includes people, but we understand, a lot of people understand that this is about some monetary security. And, you know, it should be seen as that. But I think there's such a state of confusion around all these issues. And, you know, this homosexual thing is another one. And homosexuals have to be sensitive to those that aren't homosexual. I mean, you guys love sensitivity. Well, how about us, too? Is that, you know, that a lot of people would show more affection toward, you know, people of the same gender if there wasn't that concern that, well, now by doing that, that displays that I'm openly gay. And, you know, but the love that a man can share with another man, even the Bible talks about this, is in ways better than he can share with a woman. So it's all good, and I'm sure it's the same thing for women with women. I mean, you have this thing in common. You're of the same gender, and so your mind works differently. Your perspective, your paradigm is different. So, you know, I'm all for the love, but it's just, we've got to understand that, you know, we're losing this idea that, you know, we can look at sin and we can admit it and confess it and even, you know, fall into it, but not condone it. Not, you know, say that it's also great, because it's not. And it doesn't make a person feel great. And that's the truth of the matter, is that we sin because we're stupid. This is something that other creatures don't have to face. Okay? Other creatures don't have to understand that they're, you know, naked, for example. Humanity does. No other creature has to feel, you know, financially obligated, born under this weight and burden of a cost of living. They don't have to know about taxes. And so they're free, but we, as far more intelligent creatures, fall into one issue after another. We have problems coming out our ears. And I wanted to talk about some of the current events recently. We've got this this guy that shot 4 Marines in Chattanooga, Tennessee, it was. At you know, these guys are unarmed at these recruiting centers. And to me, that if we get one thing out of this, that's what we should get out of this. We should get the ridiculous nature of these service members not being armed. How is that okay at all? I mean, this is absurd, absolutely ridiculous. I mean, if people could open carry, we'd have a safer society. The safest guys out there are guys that are openly packing heat, because, I mean, these aren't bullies, these aren't troublemakers. These are guys that feel secure in their physical person. They're playing the protector, the defender. I mean, what's wrong with that? Don't we wish that one person at that church shooting that took, what was it, 9 lives, that you know, that there had been one guy there that could have circumvented, you know, when he took that first shot, and, you know, then some guy pulled out his weapon and, you know, gunned him down in protection. I mean, look, I hate violence, but when it comes to protecting others, a man does what a man's got to do. It's just the way it is. So, and then, you know, I would love to have known these Marines were armed. How absurd. I mean, they've got a sticker on the door, you know, gun-free zone. I mean, telling people that, you know, if you want to go commit some heinous crime, do it here. This is ridiculous. And then, you know, if I was in the service and they're asking me to wear, has anybody seen these videos? I mean, they're making these guys prance around in you know, red high heels. What is this all about? What is wrong with us? Okay, we don't have to do these things. Your boss tells you to tell him to take a hike. You find a white hat boss. You know, I mean, this is ridiculous, but I understand. You know how they get away with all this? Because of the fear out there. They've got people bound by financial fear. People need a paycheck. What do they say? There's millions upon millions of Americans today that are living a paycheck away from homelessness. That's reality in America today. We are living like we're all in a motel. If you're not paying large sums of money to a landlord or to your mortgage holder or to the tax assessor's office just to own your own dwelling, you're paying it. That's it. You are paying it to somebody. You're renting your house in perpetuity. Even if it is just from the government, you can never own it, because as soon as you stop paying taxes on it, you see who really owns it, because then the law enforcement will come and kick you out of your house. And they might think that's unethical, but remember, that's their paycheck. Understand how, you've got the Chamber of Communists, what I call them, the Chamber of Commerce, right? And then we talk about, let's talk about the immigration issue and Donald Trump. Okay, what's going on lately with Donald Trump in the news. And you understand who's behind it. Look at the business interests that are behind the immigration thing. Look, the more the merrier is their attitude. People equal consumers. That's all they care about. And business people are always looking for cheap labor. That's very standard. And so all these people are colluding. These special interest groups of people are all part and parcel of the same thing. You've got government entities too, and quasi-government entities, NGOs, non-governmental organizations, and all of them get behind these things. You see, we keep things wrecked up in Mexico, we keep things wrecked up in India and China, and wherever people are being oppressed, wherever people aren't allowed to get ahead, the common man I'm talking about, everybody, because if everybody's not allowed to get ahead in a culture, in a society, in what's supposed to be a civilization, then it's a bad place, okay? And everybody's going to get their share of bad feelings. That's it. You're not going to be able to enjoy your prosperity the way you could if God was smiling upon you. You understand? You see, I already know before I ever made a fortune that it's not going to make me happy. I know that because I treasure my conscience. I treasure my relationship with my God. And I know that a great sum of money is not what's going to make me happy. Not as long as I see things trending in the direction they are, going in the trajectory they are, which is greater and greater oppression as evidenced through greater and greater poverty. We're losing the middle class. We're not gaining a middle class. We're not gaining prosperity. We're not gaining freedom. We're gaining the opposite, enslavement. We're not gaining security. We're gaining greater and greater insecurity, greater and greater financial fear. That's our reality. We're making anti-progress. And a lot of people will tell you, no, somehow we're making progress still. Somehow it all makes sense. And somehow it's all going to work itself out politically. The Democrats are going to come in and save it, the Republicans. You know, when I talk about something like the fact that if you ended homelessness, you'd be stepping on a lot of toes. You see, that is the problem, is that solving problems is a problem. And it's political, not in the sense that it's Democrat or Republican. It's political in the Chamber of Communists sense, that it steps on the business interest. So if you know, what are you, the Republicans I'm stepping on? Who wants to take the blame here? Who wants to be the anti-egalitarian one out there? Because that's what it comes down to. You people, under the guise of being humanitarian, so many of these politicians, oh, we're just nice guys, we're compassionate about all this immigration. That's all it is. We're just, you know, really kind and benevolent. This is, you know, we have altruistic goals about this. Bull. That's ridiculous. They are creating manifold things. They're creating a clash of civilizations and cultures with this whole religious thing. And so many ignorant people don't know, you know, if you look into it, I mean, religious people are supposed to be never behaving in a violent manner, okay, never offensively. So if you're truly religious and your faith is worth a dime, then you don't do offensively violent things like ISIS does or any other groups. I don't defend it. It has nothing to do with what religion it is. I mean, the Catholics, if you go back through history, the Roman Catholic Church was very violent. The Inquisitions and the you know, the Crusades, all these people involved in it, trying to, you know, keep the Bible from the public. I mean, I've got no respect for that religion. Anyway, look, I love the people. I've got relatives. You couldn't meet better people than Catholic people. It's just that the religion is what it is, and the Pope is, if there's one figurehead that would have to, you know, supposedly represent Jesus, it would be the Pope. But if you look at the way Jesus lived his life and the way Pope lives his life, it's like 180 degrees apart. So, you know, this is the Antichrist. This is the substitute, the stand-in. The Pope is that one, okay? I have no doubt. If there's one person, and, you know, does the Pope want Jesus to come? Well, he's not going to be Pope anymore. He's going to lose his position. Nobody's going to care about him. They're going to be all eyes on Jesus when Jesus returns in his ruling over the affairs of men. But you understand that there's all these special interest groups that are colluding, creating one behemoth monopoly, and so it becomes very powerful because of all these interests that have an interest in maintaining the